More than 227,000 Idahoans have had at least one shot of the COVID vaccine, and we really picked it up for the month of February. Through March, we're expected to continue giving out doses to those 65 and older and then open it up to agriculture and farm workers, or I should say food workers, and then the National Guard. Public transit and postal workers would be included in there too, and that would be all of Group 2, according to the Department of Health and Welfare distribution timeline. But what happens after that? That same timeline lays out it would likely be those 16 to 64 with high-risk medical conditions, things like cancer, heart conditions, chronic kidney disease, obesity, and those with type 2 diabetes. Those vulnerable to severe COVID-19 complications. And that seems reasonable. But when Idaho's COVID-19 Vaccine Advisory Committee met last week to set that in stone, they didn't. Because they were actually considering other options, like those only 50 and above with high-risk health conditions, either before or including other essential workers. Option D, as you see on your list right there, would be to just open it up to age groups, health risks not considered. And that made those with high-risk health issues pay attention. When the committee decided to hold off on that decision until next meeting, those in the high-risk category felt they needed to make some noise. Diane Hughes is one of those people that does not want to see the priority groups skip over those with pre-existing medical conditions. She has survived breast cancer 5 years ago, but as you may know, you're never really clear of cancer with all the medications and the regular checkups, which is why Diane's been locked down in her house for the last 11 months. It hasn't helped that she's been dealing with another health issue that started before COVID, but it has made COVID that much more of a threat.
Having my blood drawn every 6 months, we realized that my neutrophils were going down, which is part of your white blood cell that is they call it the first defender of your immune system. And so before the pandemic even hit, I was told, to think about wearing a mask out in public and maybe to stay home a little bit more during flu season.
What have these 11 months been for you? What have they been like for you?
On the one hand, it's been an incredible reminder of how privileged I am, how grateful I am that my husband has a secure job. And I'm incredibly grateful for the people who have been doing my grocery shopping for me and the pickup, at the library in the parking lot. But it is, of course, frustrating, right? We're all reaching our fatigue point, and I am certainly at my fatigue point. And I don't necessarily want to get my hair cut and go out to dinner. I want to make those doctor's appointments that I missed, I skipped over the winter, and get my teeth cleaned. Yeah. Those are my priorities.
So in this situation, what's the light at the end of the tunnel for you?
Watching the governor's plan of who's been prioritized for vaccinations. And I was looking at the end of April for high risk, people with high risk medical conditions.
If option D is to just open it up to age group only, what would that mean for people like you in these priority groups when it comes to your health?
Throughout this pandemic, I have felt like damaged goods. Like I have, people are less worried because if something happened to me because of COVID, it would be because I have had a history of cancer. And so I think that in being part of a vulnerable population, we deserve care and protection. And I'm not sure if there's anybody out there who's advocating for me or the thousands of people that I represent. I have friends with diabetes and asthma and mental health issues. And it can feel like you're all alone.
If their basis in deciding to go just by age only, because it's easier for them to do it, it's easier for us to understand, how do you respond to that?
I think protecting high-risk populations is worth the effort. I think it doesn't have to be easy or simple to be worthwhile.
And the way the COVID vaccine committee figures it, if they went with option A and opened it up to 16 to 64 with medical conditions and essential workers, well, that would mean about 380,000 Idahoans would be eligible all at once. Option B, as you take a look at the screen again, Just those 50 to 64 with one medical condition, at least one medical condition, and essential workers, that would be about 251,000 Idahoans that could get the COVID vaccine in Group 3, Round 1. Option C, people 50 to 64 with one medical condition before the rest of the essential workers. That would mean just 168,000 or so. Now, option D, breaking it down just by age only, the first phase would be 55 to 64 and be about 218,000 Idahoans, and you can see the numbers play out, so on and so forth in that list. And with that option, Diane, who is 46, and others like her, would be in that next phase of 45 to 54. So as she puts it, she'd be in with about 420,000 others trying to do the same thing. And Diane would just like to see the vulnerable considered before the general public. The next COVID-19 Vaccine Advisory Committee that's scheduled for the meeting, is scheduled for next Friday. And they will accept public comment in writing by email until noon Monday. That's it. And that email address will be in this story at ktvb.com.